Welcome back to the Pro Sports Podcasters on YouTube. My name is Cobe. Most of you know me as Kobe from the podcast. And today what I want to look at are the top 10 probably most valuable rares right now on the NFL all-day marketplace. And how I selected these was number one, they had to be relevant players. Okay, they had to be relevant. Number two, they had to have a perceived value. So there are some very relevant defensive players that are going to be valuable at some point, but right now they're being overlooked just because they're defensive players. So I did not include defensive players in this list. Maybe I'll do a defensive players list on a later date. And three, and this is probably the most important one, is that they couldn't have a common and they couldn't have an additional rare available to you. So basically, these are the rares that do not have commons. They're offensive players. They're generally perceived as NFL stars. And at most, they have a legendary. So right now, these rares are the ones that are key to own, because if a challenge happens and it doesn't really take into account whether it's a rare or a common, this is your only option unless you want to cash out big time or already have one in your collection for a legendary. And that's why I went with these particular 10. And I'm going to start with two that are kind of connected. And that's Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. I'll begin with Ezekiel Elliott, who currently is the second highest paid running back in the league per year. He got paid. He got the bag. And since receiving that massive contract, he hasn't really produced up to expectations, which is the problem here. But this is a contract season. So basically, Ezekiel's got to look at this situation to decide to himself, do I want to keep playing football after this? And if I do, I've got two options. One, to take a pay cut. Or two, to ball out this particular season. Now, I think even if he balls out this particular season, he will still be forced to take a pay cut just because of how the market is on running backs right now. But if he just continues along the same path he's been on for the last couple of seasons, then he's going to have to take a significant pay cut or just leave football altogether. And that's not really a bad option for him because he got paid so well. Ezekiel is not hurting, right? He's set up. So he can choose to quit after this season, or he can choose to be a factor and maybe even a secondary factor on the Dallas Cowboys. And that brings me to Tony Pollard, who is the perceived running back of the future. And right now he's at a significant discount, right? So one of the reasons why Dallas won't have to pay Zeke is because they have Tony Pollard. And Tony Pollard's been the better running back, the last season. Last year, he was by far the better running back. He was a more explosive back on the Dallas Cowboys roster. Now, Zeke wasn't 100% healthy. He was coming back from injury. He had some issues that were bothering him throughout the season. So you got to factor that in. But Tony Pollard looked pretty damn good. So we're going to get to see what Dallas thinks this particular season. They're going to want to run Zeke into the ground because they've paid him heavily and he hasn't really produced. But if he's not producing still, they're going to start switching things over to Tony Pollard. So both of these moments come with a little bit of risk as far as the performance base goes. But realistically, they've both got a chance to shine this particular season. So I want to include the two of them on the list. And next, I've got Davante Adams. And this one's a no-brainer for me. Davante Adams, some people see him as the number one wide receiver in the league. Personally, I do. I think he's the best wide receiver in the league. It's not Aaron, it's him. Okay. He had this way of just getting open whenever required. And he also understood that Aaron was a scramble quarterback when necessary and knew how to lose his coverage and make himself available to Aaron whenever that situation arose. Plus, he's just a skilled athlete. He's now with the Las Vegas Raiders. He gets teamed up with Derek Carr, who, is his former quarterback from college. So Davante Adams is going to perform 100%. And the only other moment on the marketplace for Davante Adams is a legendary, so people aren't going to cash out for that. So he is one of the key wide receivers to have right now in your collection. And I'm stressing right now because we still have two more rewind packs coming out this summer. It's possible in those rewind packs that we get an Ezekiel Elliott common, a Tony Pollard common, a Davante Adams common. It's possible. It's not guaranteed, but there's a possibility there. So this list is for right now, and it's a bit speculative, but keep in mind, with the release of every rewind pack, if there isn't a common equivalent to these particular moments, they should go up. right? So you've got two more opportunities. You could take the gamble now, or you can wait and see. But if you wait and see, you're probably going to pay more for these particular moments. Then I've got Dalvin Cook. Again, Dalvin Cook, one of the top running backs in the league, explosive back, all-purpose back. He's got all the skills. He's on an offense that should be, well, that has produced and should produce even more this particular year because we're going away from that Zimmer-minded, established run type offense, which you think would hurt Dalvin Cook, but it really doesn't. If you open the offense up, it's less predictable. Dalvin Cook is phenomenal in space, plus he's a great pass-catching back. So I like Dalvin Cook. And again, there's a legendary available, but outside of that, it's just the rare. So this is one of the ones you want to have in your collection. Then I've got Leonard Fournette, and this one comes with a little bit of a warning as well. So first of all, Leonard Fournette came to camp a little overweight. That's not a big deal to me. It really isn't. These guys are like ridiculous athletes. If they want to lose the weight, they can lose the weight. They can go hard in camp and get back down to size. Not all of these guys want to keep working out 24/7 during the off season, so I get that. Fournette's on a very high-powered offense with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He thrived last season in that role and the season before. On top of that, they just signed Julio Jones, so they're going to even open up the throwing lanes a little bit more for Brady. They've got a sick trio of Julio Jones, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans there, so there's going to be lots of room for Fournette to run. If they play some play action, it's going to be great for Fournette, right? So I like Fournette here. The only caveat I have on Fournette is that he's getting up in age. There's a lot of tread in those, that's been burnt off those tires. This may not be a long-term type hold moment for you, but for this particular season, he could factor into challenges almost guaranteed. Then we've got Tyler Lockett. And Tyler Lockett, I'm a big fan of Tyler Lockett. Of course, most of you know I'm also a Seattle Seahawks fan. Tyler Lockett has this uncanny way of slipping through the defense and getting himself open. He's fantastic with deep balls. He's going to be a factor, even with the fact that Russell Wilson's gone. Whoever the quarterback happens to be is going to find Tyler Lockett open quite often and deep. It's whether or not they can get him the ball. But I like Tyler Lockett here. So minted to $8.99 is part of the launch code set. Tyler Lockett is, again, maybe not the youngest wide receiver, but it's not like he's been banged up. Okay, he's been pretty healthy his entire career. So this is all that's available to you as a rare. Will it factor into a performance-based challenge? We don't know yet, but it's something to consider. And depending on the cost value of some of these other rares, it may be one that you want to have in your collection. Now I've got Kirk Cousins. I've mentioned Kirk Cousins in a bunch of my videos, right? In a bunch of my videos. Kirk Cousins is your perfect value quarterback pick when it comes to a rare. And it's the only Kirk Cousins available to you right now is the rare version, right? It's part of the launch codes. It's to $8.99. And that's it. And what makes Kirk Cousins especially special this particular season is that he's reunited in a system that he thrived in. Under Zimmer, he was limited as to how much throwing he got because they put so much of the emphasis on the run game. But now he goes back to a coach that in Washington, he threw for over 5,000 yards with. So they're going to open things up, and he's got fantastic targets in Minnesota. So I like Kirk Cousins, and right now with his price on the marketplace, to me it's a no-brainer when it's the only moment available to you is a rare. Then I've got Matt Ryan. It's a similar situation here. Matt Ryan's a former league MVP. The guy can air it out. He finds himself in a new home, the Indianapolis Colts, which is a stacked roster from top to bottom, offense, defense. They're going to compete. They're in a relatively easy division. He's got some decent targets to throw to. Now, granted, this isn't the, Julio Jones / Calvin Ridley days that he had, where he had two ridiculously physically freak wide receivers to throw to. So it's going to be a little different there, but he has a number of receivers plus the best running back right now, healthy running back in the league in Jonathan Taylor. So he's got opportunities here. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But if you're looking for a quarterback and you don't want to cash out too much, here's an option here because it's only the rare one that's available. If you don't mind spending a little more money, and it's well worth it in this case, the next one on our list is Aaron Rodgers. And of course, Aaron Rodgers has done everything that's been required of him to be a fantastic star player in the NFL. He's won the Lombardi Trophy. He's been league MVP for a couple of years in a row now. Aaron Rodgers is legit. So there's no risk here, right? You could look at it like maybe there's a little bit of a risk this particular season. He's lost his favorite target in Devontae Adams. But the Green Bay Packers are so stacked, and it's such a well-organized team from top to bottom that he's going to succeed. Maybe he doesn't have the ridiculous numbers he had last year, but he's still going to produce. And really, what you're buying that moment for is the fact that it's the only rare available. Sure, there's a couple of legendaries, but it's the only rare available. There is no common, and it's Aaron Rodgers in Series 1. So if nothing comes out in the Rewind number 2 and Rewind number 3 packs, you're going to wish you had this moment now because it'll go up later, right? So Aaron Rodgers is just a no-brainer when it comes right down to it. Now I'm going to move on to Trevor Lawrence. And Trevor Lawrence is by far the most expensive moment on this list, and for good reason. Trevor Lawrence is the most anticipated quarterback to enter the league in decades. Okay, some people say it's since Andrew Luck, but for me it's before that, because Trevor Lawrence has higher upside than Andrew Luck, and Andrew Luck was a bona fide star. Andrew Luck proved that the hype around him entering the league was legit. If it wasn't for injuries, he'd probably be the top quarterback in the league right now. Trevor Lawrence has that potential. Fortunately for him, he began his career with the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is a notoriously poor franchise, although they're starting to turn things around. And on top of that, he had to deal with Urban Meyer last year, which was a complete shit show. So this year, they're doing everything they can to help kind of amplify his learning curve, right? Accelerate the learning curve in his second season. And the value on him is reflected because of what he can be, not what he is right now, but what he could be in, say, 4 years when his rookie contract is over. Will he be one of the top quarterbacks in the league at that time? There's the potential for it. So this is a kind of real risk-reward investment type purchase here. But if they don't produce another Trevor Lawrence moment in the Rewind 2 or Rewind 3 packs, a lot of people are going to wish they had this one. They're going to wish. Although I have a feeling it wouldn't surprise me if they do produce another Trevor Lawrence moment. It's whether or not it'll be another rare or a common or whatever. We'll see. But that's the last of my top 10 most valuable rares right now available to you on the NFL All Day Marketplace. Now, there are 4 additional players I kind of want to draw attention to because they have the potential to jump on this list when Rewind 2 or Rewind 3 comes out if a rare is minted for them. And 2 of those players currently don't have moments. That's Lamar Jackson, former league MVP quarterback who had a phenomenal season that year, and Christian McCaffrey, who, in my opinion, is the best NFL player, period, in the league right now. If it wasn't for injuries, he would be the one that everyone talks about. He would be the poster child of the NFL. It's between him and Aaron Donald. Depends if you're looking at the offensive side or defensive side of the ball. But I think Christian McCaffrey, when he's 100% healthy, can affect a game more than Aaron Donald, which would make him the top player in the league, in my opinion. So nothing's been minted yet for those 2 players. You got to expect something to come out in Rewind 2 or Rewind 3 for both of them. It's will it be a rare? And if it is, get it while you can. And then there's 2 players currently that only have legendary moments on the site who I'm hoping will have a common or rare come out before the season begins. And that's Jonathan Taylor and Trey Lance. Trey Lance, jury's still out on him. I'm still not 100% sure if he's going to be legit or not, but San Francisco is going to give him the chance this season, right? He starts off as the man, so we'll see if everything they gave up to move up to the 3rd pick was worth it last year. We'll find out, but right now, the only moment available is legendary, so hopefully they release something else. And then, of course, Jonathan Taylor, who, by fantasy football standards, is a consensus number 1 pick overall in fantasy football because of how he's utilized by the Indianapolis Colts. Again, only as a legendary. Hopefully something comes out so that we can use him in, say, Own the Moment Rumble, their fantasy football variant, utilizing NFL all-day moments. I'd like to have the option to put him in my roster and not have to buy a legendary. For those of you who haven't checked out the Own the Moment website, do so. They have a program on there called the Jolly Jokers. It's a gated NFT sports NFT community. It will be the premier sports NFT community. We become a partner with them on that. If you do decide that you want to be a part of it, and you're going to purchase a Jolly Jokers moment when the release comes out in early August, do us a solid and list us as your community. There's a option to list the Pro Sports Podcasters as the community that you follow the closest. And if you do, for every 5 individual accounts that purchase a Jolly Joker, they'll be entered in a draw to win tickets to a sporting event in their market. That's a thank you from us to you for supporting our community on that particular platform. And more importantly, it will be the sports NFT community by far. It'd be the only one. It'd be the first one. If you're not first, you're last. So get in now while you can. If you want any more information on that, I'll put links in the description so you can check it out. Otherwise, till next time.